Well, hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. I'm Corny Swiss, and today I want to talk about, I guess advanced warnings. This is going to be a little bit of a rant, but hopefully I'll keep it as rantless as possible. But I wanted to talk about the 7.0 to 8.0 battle rating range, and every tank that's affected by it, which means tanks from 6.0 to 8.0. There's lots of them. But the key thing I want to talk about is what it's been like playing at this battle rating for the last week or so. Since I've been grinding with the T28 and the T95, or for the T95, and then playing all the tanks to make reviews. For example, I think I have the next review done. I have the one after that I think mostly done, and then the T95 I'm almost there with. So the reviews are coming in hot and heavy, that's for sure. But it's because I've had so much more time to play, and I've just been grinding it out and playing a lot more. But the key thing I want to talk about is, since 1.70 1945 or whatever they're calling it, they should have just stuck with like 1.47.5 or something like that. But since that update and the buff to sloped armor, the 7.0 battle rating, well 6.0 to 8.0 range, has become a nightmare for anyone not driving Russian tanks. The main culprits being the IS-3 and the IS-4, the lesser degree culprit, the T-54, but the real culprit is honestly the IS-3. And for those of you who may not be aware, the IS-3 has always been it's always had very mediocre armor. The armor's never been anything that set it apart. And because it relies on sloping and things like that, and prior to this patch, sloping wasn't natural sloping to armor wasn't a great way of getting the job done. Now, since the most recent patch, they've buffed the effectiveness of sloped armor, making it extremely difficult to kill IS-3s and IS-4s. Honestly, less so IS-4s, primarily because there is the driver's hatch weak spot, which you can have success with, but it's an incredibly small target. But you don't necessarily need APCR. I've done it with AP rounds from my T95, have penetrated IS-4s frontally, no problem, if you hit the spot. IS-3s, though, the only consistent way I've been able to damage them is by aiming for under the gun barrel and ricocheting the shell down into the driver's compartment. But I have actually never killed an IS-3 frontally, and I've tried many times. A lot of times what ends up happening is I'm sitting at like 800 meters to 1,000 meters in my T95, wailing away on him. He's wailing away at me, and it's just a wet noodle fight until I get flanked and die very horribly. But the point is that the IS-3 mainly is just so, I mean, it's broken. It really is. There aren't many guns that can penetrate its armor, and it's basically become any team that has Russian tanks on it wins. And if both teams have Russian tanks, it depends who has the most Russian tanks. But specifically in realistic, whoever has the Russian tanks on their team has a 90% chance to win. And I've seen that through the statistics. I think my T95 has a 12 or 13% win rate, and just instantaneous win rates, because honestly I can't play the IS-3 or the IS-4. It's not fun. I don't think I've lost a game in those tanks, and I've played maybe 4 or 5. Because I was experimenting, trying to find out how to kill the things, and I didn't really learn anything. The way I got knocked out was, from the front at least, was people shooting under my. That's the best way to kill an IS-3, by the way. Just shoot him in the side, I guess. But the way I was always knocked out was an AP shell from a German tank hits the front of my, right below my mantlet, and ricochets down and explodes inside my tank, killing the crew. Okay, I mean, that's reasonable. The issue is that American tanks don't have AP-HE ammo. They have just solid armor-piercing ammo. And the issue with that ammo is that it doesn't explode. So once it penetrates the tank, it only damages stuff on really a straight line. And when you're ricocheting it down into the tank, it's not very useful. I've been trying more things with APCR, but the issue is that sloped armor does well against APCR. It just has a higher chance to bounce. And the big thing that I'm taking away from it is that the end of the line sort of tanks, so I mean the 7.0 to 8.0 battle rating is really rank 5. It's the top of the tier, you know, competition, I guess. It's just not fun at all. It really has, and it's always struggled to be fun because, I mean, when Ground Forces first came out, the T-54 was rampantly overpowered. The only reason people didn't use the IS-4 was because the T-54 had 2 spawns and just absolutely murdered everybody anyway, so why would you take a tank that only has 1 spawn? You know, what if you get flanked? Oh, you get flanked in a T-54, you just whip out your other one. Now we have 3 different T-54s in the game. The IS-4's armor is as strong as ever. The IS-3 is now extremely powerful. They have guns that can destroy every tank they face, and there are very few guns that can destroy them frontally, and most can't. The German guns seem to have the most success. The American guns, not so much. And it all comes back to the sloped armor and the buff it got, which was an indirect nerf to American tanks because American tanks generally, a lot of them use very solid APCR rounds, and those aren't as useful anymore. And heat rounds certainly aren't very useful against the front of an IS-3 because of how sloped it is. So you have this situation where the Russian tanks were already strong, were already pretty good, and they just got buffed, like, tremendously. It was a real buff. And it's just, I don't know how to feel about it, because it's difficult for me to be angry about it, because it's kind of the way it's always been, I guess, but it's never been this bad. I mean, when the mouse was first introduced, it was a very powerful tank, and it kind of leveled the playing field to some degree. I felt like it was debatable which side would win until the dominoes started falling, and then you could tell. But nowadays it's just, okay, who are the Russians on? Which team is the Russians? Oh, they're on the other team? Okay, well, we're all dead. You know, it's how many can we take with them at that take with us at that point? And it's just, it's a shame because, you know, it's giving, a lot of people are getting misconceptions that certain tanks are bad now. Like, people are asking me all the time, how's the M47? It seems really bad, or how's the T95? It seems really bad. I'm going to hold my opinion on the T95 because I'm going to be releasing a review, but the M47 is still a good tank against most. It's just generally a good tank. The issue is it struggles with some Russian things. Well, I mean, everyone struggles with Russian things now. It's just not fun at all. It's not fun for anyone. Like, I mean, there's plenty of people who are just, they're just not people that I have any time for. People who, like, at the end of the game will say just stupid things about how they won and you lost when they're clubbing in the IS-3 or the IS-4. It's dumb. And, you know, I hardly ever respond to anything in chat unless it's positive, but it's just a shame because I've played what, I said 4 or 5 games, yeah, about, in the IS-3 and the IS-4, and it's just not fun. It really is. And I can sit out in the middle of an open field and just get wailed on for 5 minutes and not take a single bit of damage. No crew dead, no nothing. And it's just not fun. And it's not fun to drive the tanks that are getting mercilessly clubbed. But, you know, this is something I feel like I needed to be said, at least from my perspective. And, you know, hopefully they fix it soon, but knowing Gaijin, it takes a while. And even when they do fix it, it's generally not a fix. It's kind of like something else, and it doesn't help. But even adding like a tank like the Leopard 1 the prototype, that's not going to help, because I mean, it's going to be better, but that doesn't help the Americans. It'll help the Germans a little bit, but the Russian tanks will still be really strong from the front. So no, that's the rant for today. And yeah, it's really put a tarnish on it, War Thunder, for me. I'm still going to play it, but I'm certainly not as stoked about unlocking later tier tanks, and I'm probably going to end up playing a lot more of the lower battle rating machines, simply because the competition's actually there. I mean, and what you're seeing in front of you now is, it's a section of a game I played in the IS-3. It was actually my first game playing the IS-3 for a while. I basically unlocked the upgraded ammunition and then stopped playing. And so this is the first game I played in a while. And you can kind of see what I mean. I'm just going to take just huge amounts of damage. I do get knocked out eventually, but it's just, the whole time I was sitting there, I was like, you know, this, I don't have to play. You know, I could almost just program a bot, and he could do just as good a job. Just shoot the enemy tanks, and if you know, just keep the nose pointing at him, and you win. It's just really not fun. And the only fun you could get out of it is if you just love seal clubbing, and I don't. I like competing, and by sitting here behind this, honestly, I don't even have to sit behind this cover. I could just be sitting out in the middle of the open. You know, this at least gives me some protection because I'm actually trying to play. But there's just zero competitiveness in playing a tank that's vastly superior to its competition. I can penetrate that King Tiger frontally easily through his turret. He cannot penetrate my turret. He will struggle to penetrate my front armor. He has to do the driver's hatch trick, really, to penetrate. He could sneak one into my turret ring, but, I mean, imagine that target. Imagine that shot he'd have to pull off. But the thing is, I guess the thing is, if you just shoot enough rounds at the front of this thing, eventually one will penetrate. But once it penetrates, really only the German shells have, in my opinion, have a strong chance of causing serious damage. The best thing you can hope for from an American shell is driver knocked out or killed. And that doesn't really do you anything. It doesn't disable the gun, it doesn't destroy the tank. So it's just not good, you know. And it's just, like, I've said it a lot, it's just not fun. And I think once I finish the T95 review, people have asked me to revisit the IS-3 and revisit the IS-4 and revisit, like, the mouse and things like that. I want to, but at the same time I don't, because I know what the story's gonna be, you know? Like, holy shit, I got knocked out. Like, I was surprised. And see, right here, the shell gets bounced down into the tank. You can't actually penetrate this thing frontally traditionally. You have to use its shot trap to get down in there. And an American shell wouldn't have actually done that. It would have just killed the driver and been done. Assuming it ricocheted at all. But I think I've decided I don't really have any intentions of doing revisits on 8.0 battle rating tanks or 7.0 after I do the T95 review, because I can tell you right now, here's the story. Russian tanks are strong. German tanks have the ability to deal with them, but it's tough. American tanks are really struggling in terms of killing these things frontally. Flanking is a necessity, and it turns out that the Russian tanks are faster and have better armor. They're like the T-54 has better armor and can easily 1v1 any other tank. So, you know, those are my thoughts on it. And don't turn the comment section into a rage fest. I don't want to read it. But I don't want to read, well, no, I want to read the comment section. I should rephrase that. I don't want to read people just spamming hate at, like, Gaijin and things like that, because it's not productive. But, yeah, I guess that's this rant over with. I was going to finish it after the first game, but then I decided I wanted to add the second game, and maybe I should add a third game because it's still going. But anyway, thanks for watching. I've been CornySwiss. I'll see you next time.